coming and helping with this. So you know what I'm doing? I'm trying to help women to find love and to be better at dating. So I'm sure you've noticed the dating game has changed in this generation, you know, with the Tinder generation. And a lot of women are confused. And in particular, the women I'm working with are women over 30. And so there's a lot of articles recently about men who are older dating women who are really young, like in their 20s. And then there are a lot of articles about why men are dating women who are in their 20s. And so then we have men who are in their 20s and 30s dating women in their 20s. So then these women who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, some of them are obviously feeling like, you know, alone. And there are a lot more singles, there are a lot more divorced, marriages lower than ever before. So what I'm trying to do is help women kind of realize what they can do, if there's anything, to make themselves more desirable to the opposite sex.
Right. Okay.
So I know, you know, from your own, if you don't mind telling the camera, like, your age?
54.
54, okay.
And getting younger.
Yeah. So can I ask you, from your own experience, you know, what do you think about women closer to your age, women younger, and, like, why would you choose one over the other?
You wouldn't just go on age.
Right, okay.
Age is an arbitrary factor, I think.
Okay.
So it's about the person.
Okay.
Life experiences, the person.
Okay.
Where their situation is, where their lives are,
Okay.
where their lives are going. It's about the person, it's not about the age.
Okay, and so what do you find attractive? What's the first thing you look for as far as whether you decide to approach a woman or not?
Well, it depends where you were, but if you're approaching a woman, it's got to be, is there any attraction?
Okay.
And that's going to be both physical initially, and after that it will be the mental side of things, where there's any real chemistry.
Okay, as far as how you meet women, do you meet women more in person or online? Or
No, introductions.
Introductions. So
yeah.
people introduce you.
In the main, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and so how does that? So you meet somebody, and then you come in, and then you decide from that. Basically, so you're coming into a date already, or you talk to her on the phone first?
You would ideally talk to them on the phone.
Okay.
First.
So in that phone call, you haven't
Yeah.
seen her yet. So
Correct.
do you know what she looks like?
You may do, or you may not do.
Somebody might send you a
Someone
photo.
might send you a photo. Someone might have said that I think you two guys might get along real
Okay.
well.
So let's say you're going in blind and you haven't seen her.
Yep.
In that phone call, tell me, what are you looking for to make sure that you actually do schedule that date?
You're looking for a bit of personality. You're looking
Okay.
for a little bit of banter. You're looking for a little bit of what I'd be looking for, some degree of personality to flow through the call.
Okay.
You're looking for them to talk a little bit about their background, their life, their recent experiences. Are they single? Are they looking to date? Are they in a situation they actually would like a relationship? Or are they still mourning a loss of a recent breakup? Or you got to establish where they are at.
How do you tell this from a phone call?
You ask the questions. You've got to be asking direct questions.
Okay, and how long would this phone call, like, what?
Depends how
would you think is
they
an
are on a
element?
phone. Also,
Like, well, if she kind of hangs up really quickly, there's a lot of books written about, you know, the idea, like, don't spend too much on the phone because then he never will go for the date, things like that. Is there any truth
that's
to that?
unattractive, I would think. If they're keen to get off the phone,
You find that unattractive?
I find that unattractive.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because there was a very famous book, obviously, The Rules, written, and she made this big point about how never spend more than 10 minutes on the phone because you want him to actually get to the date. So you basically say, oh, I'm sorry, something's cooking or whatever, and so she brushes off the phone. So you would actually find that a turn off.
I would find that a little disconcerting. Yeah.
Okay, is there a point that you'd spend that's too long on the phone where you kind of...
Exhausted all the chat before you've even
Yeah,
met.
so you haven't... Exactly,
But you have to
there's
find
no
that
point.
balance, Julie. You have to find that balance.
Okay, and I guess there's no roundabout...
No, there's not.
It's just kind of...
It's the way the conversation flows between the two parties.
Is there ever any time when you haven't actually asked the woman to go out after the phone call?
Many times, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You deduce that you're just not going to get along.
By the fact that...
You might be in different stages in your life.
Okay.
And looking for different things. At that point, you're thinking it's probably not a great deal. How we're going to get on.
So how could she make that phone call better so that you'd want to have a date, let's say? What can the woman do? Because I feel like that phone call is a huge advantage over seeing a picture first. You get the personality first.
The personality's got to come across. It's absolutely critical. It's the personality's got to come through the phone call. They've got to be able to chat, to communicate. They've got to be able to express themselves.
So fun on the phone.
Fun on the phone. Have a little, just
banter on the phone.
Better banter on the phone is critical. Absolutely.
Okay. So communicative.
Yeah, but it's to a certain extent. they're only going to respond to the questions that you pose. So if you pose no meaningful questions,
Right.
then they're not really going to be able to respond accordingly, because they might be shy, might be introvert, they might not be willing to give a great deal away if you're not willing to ask the questions.
And what about her questions back? Like, is there anything that's too much, where she's like asking too probing questions and you're thinking like, this woman's grilling me, I'm not, you know, I definitely don't want to go there?
No, I don't think so.
There's nothing. So even
No,
if she can ask you extremely personal questions, ask you about your marriage, ask you about kids, whatever it is, you don't. There's
You see, a lot of that you would like to say, well, when we get together, we'll chat about that sort of stuff.
Okay, so you just kind of push back. There's no.
Yeah, you might be asked how many children you got, but you wouldn't want to be asked too much about the respective,
Right.
kids, where they're at in their lives. You leave all that to
When you actually meet.
the meeting to take
Okay,
place.
so there's
absolutely.
no area which is a bit too much probing into.
No.
Okay, so now.
But you can always decide that you don't wish to go there. If, of course,
Right,
someone's
of
asked
course. So now the other question is, you talked on the phone with her, you thought, wow, she's actually really cool. I kind of, definitely want to get to know this person.
Yeah, because your personality would have come
Yeah,
through
the
on the phone.
personality comes
Yeah.
across. Now she shows up, so you're coming in, she
Yeah.
tells you I'm going to wear this black turtleneck or a yellow jumper or whatever it is, something
Yeah.
that you can recognize her. You
Yeah.
haven't seen her.
Yep.
Is there anything that's a complete, no way do I want to, I know I've had this great phone call with her, but I don't even want to sit down. I mean, I just see her, I know this is not going to be the girl.
So the appearance, the clothing.
Yeah. What is a turn off? What's a complete no?
Well, an inappropriate outfit
Like
for,
what?
for a coffee occasion, or
So
an
what does that
inappropriate. You might be. I would say for a dinner date, you might be. For a coffee date, you
Yeah.
might be dressed completely inappropriately. You might be
What's
looking like you're
inappropriate?
going out to the theatre, but actually all you're doing is having a coffee.
What does that mean? So describe that, because that's.
Okay, so
Like, there's a fine
from my
line
perspective,
between-
it would
okay.
be casual, would be jeans, t-shirt, jeans, sweater. It wouldn't be a cocktail dress with loads of makeup for a coffee.
Okay. So
Okay.
so that's like she's pushing it
Completely
too much.
pushed
Okay,
it
but
too
what if
much
she
for
has
a
like
casual coffee.
What if like a professional casual dress or a professional look?
Well, that's fine. I mean, you may get a situation emerging from a coffee maybe after work, in which case they've been to work, they're going to
Yeah.
be appropriately dressed, so you wouldn't rule that out.
Okay.
So again, it's matching the situation.
Is there anything about her actual appearance that would completely turn you off and say, okay, I'm not?
Well, for me, it might be height, it might be weight.
Okay. Explain that.
Well, because I'm only 5'8", so I don't particularly want to be dating somebody who's 6'1",
Okay.
and likewise, I want to be dating somebody who's probably below 5 foot either.
Okay.
So height's going to be an issue.
Okay.
Weight, because I'm slim, small frame. I'm not going to be that interested in someone who's what I would call large, overweight. Probably doesn't really take care of themselves from a physical perspective. You could see exercise wouldn't be a priority for them.
Okay.
So for me, that's one of my
Okay.
issues.
So what about? Is there anything else? What about like age-wise?
Well, you already know their age, don't you? You've already asked that you've already established that on the phone call.
Oh, what if she doesn't say?
So you'll be finding out when you meet with her.
Okay.
But again,
so
if the personality comes through and the looks are good, and the character and all the chat's going well, you don't really probably need to spend a great deal of time talking and wondering about what the age is.
okay.
Because you've
So,
established children or no children, you've
Yeah.
established the ages of the children.
as far as women, so when you choose like you've seen women, or basically, have you seen women of all ages that could be beautiful? Like, does it matter to you if if she's close to your age or even a couple of years older, or if she's 30 years younger? Is there a limit that you'd say where you really are like, I'm not going to go there?
Well, I wouldn't go there if it was significantly older,
Okay.
and I certainly wouldn't go there if it's significantly younger. So I suppose
Okay.
there is a sort of 10, 15 year. For me, it'd be 10, 15 years below the age of myself, and it would not be particularly older than myself.
Okay. So somewhere around that happy medium. So
Yeah.
women your age in the 50s, you're happy to go out.
Yeah, 40s through to 50s, absolutely.
You're
fine.
happy to-
Yeah, absolutely
okay.
fine.
Okay, so then, is there anything that you particularly, let's say the date happens. Like, what could she do to make sure that the next date happens? That you want to ask her again, because this is like this inquiry.
Well, I mean,
date,
do
you're
you
getting
actually
to
get
know
on?
her.
I mean, and you'll establish that very early on. Is there chemistry?
Okay.
You need to establish very
So-
early on. Is there chemistry?
Okay.
Can you have a laugh? Are you getting on? Is the conversation easy?
Okay.
Or are there awkward silences, awkward moments?
Okay, so explain chemistry. I know this is like an undefinable term that is very hard to define. Explain what that means to you.
Got to have eye contact.
Okay.
They've got to be
So
interested.
eye contact, because you're like the 10th person that said eye contact. I mean, eye contact has come across as a very important thing.
But I mean, eye contact in any perspective, any walk of life is critical.
Yeah.
If you're not engaging with somebody and they're not looking at you, they're not that interested, are they?
Okay, that's what comes across.
Absolutely,
Well,
yeah.
Some people actually shy away from eye contact just because they're shy or whatever. But
No,
what
why
comes
would
across?
we would take it possibly as a negative aspect.
Okay, so what comes across? Basically, eye contact is hugely important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and what else?
Well, I think you establish at very early doors whether there's any chemistry. The conversation would dictate whether you feel that you can get on.
So the conversation flowing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so someone
No
who can
awkward
be
silences. You
No
don't sit
awkward
there and you
silence.
think, what are we going to talk about next?
okay.
That is
fun.
not a good sign.
Okay, fun.
Fun, yeah, easy going. Have a little bit of a laugh, a bit of a banter.
Okay. So now all those things that you said, banter, fun, interesting conversation,
Yep.
that could be with a friend. What makes this a woman? Okay, I really liked her. That was really cool. Totally want to hang out with her. We'll invite her to like some event I'm doing. Versus, wow. Okay, now her I want to see again. Maybe get to know her a lot better. What's that line? Because that's a very fun line, isn't it? The friend zoned woman who is like she's really cool. She might even be attractive, but she's just like there's something that's not necessarily.
I think it's probably a combination of her physical appearance and her personality that's going to dictate as to whether or not you would like to go for date number 2.
But even like you might say, oh, she's really cool. I definitely want to hang out with her again. But you might not fancy her in that way, even if she is.
Well, then she'll
attractive.
fall into the very nice person friend group, I would
Exactly.
suggest.
So what makes that differentiation? Like, is that a conscious thing? What makes that differentiation between she's going to be a friend and she's going to be a potential lover?
You're going to examine, is there any chemistry between the two parties?
Okay, but you just said chemistry is eye contact, good conversation.
Yep. Being able to have a laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
So that
being
could
able
be a
to
friend
talk
as well.
freely.
That could be a friend as well.
It will, but I think you generally know from a bit of experience whether or not you think the two parties are going to get along and could fancy each other, and if they're not, then probably it's just going to end up in the friendship box.
Okay, so here is that fine line. So what does that woman have to do to establish that there is, there's the chemistry, not just a friend?
I don't think she has to do anything. It's got to be. I mean,
flirting?
tactile is an interesting point. Some
Okay.
people are not tactile, others are.
Okay.
So again, I think that you've got to give people the benefit of the doubt on that one. Some people are able to express themselves through a tactile approach. Others are a bit more shy and reserved.
Is there something like that
In a way,
the flirting thing that needs to come across for you to think, okay, yeah, that's somebody I want to get to know better?
Flirting thing. Well, a definition of flirting, I'm not so sure about that, but I think you establish that early doors with the conversation and discussion.
So the conversation establishes flirting, but that's not enough because that conversation
It will
also
be enough. You will be able to deduce whether or not you think there's a foundation and grounds here to go to another date.
Okay, so even if there's no flirting necessarily going on,
Yeah.
if there's an interesting conversation,
Yep.
you're drawn in.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
As long as there's eye contact.
Close design contact, and there's a physical attraction. They fulfill what you're looking for in your ideal date.
Okay, so now fast forward. Tell me, when do you start thinking, okay, this is more than just dating. This is somebody I want a relationship with. And what...
We wouldn't do that on your
Happen.
first... You wouldn't establish that from the first meeting, would you?
No, I'm fast forwarding now.
Oh, fast forwarding.
When are you thinking? Like, is there a timing issue? Is there like something
No,
that...
no timing.
What is it about her that makes her be the relationship?
Well, you might be on date 2, date 3. You've had dinner, you've been to theatre, you might be to the cinema, you might just had another drink,
Yeah?
and you might just be doing the basic, simple things, and you're realising actually we do get on. We actually have the foundation to commence a relationship.
So what's that thing? What's that elusive thing that says relationship versus she's one of the 5 that I'm dating?
One of the 5 I'm dating.
Whatever it is. I mean, in the States, like it's not as common here, I think, but in the States, dating 5 people at once is very, very normal.
Is it?
I mean, especially in New York and LA, for example. I mean, it's people just cover their bases. You know, it's like some people can have a different date every day of the week.
Right.
So here, I think people are a little bit. You know, it's more like you fall into.
I don't think we've got as much choice anyway.
Maybe.
I don't think you can actually define it. I think it's something that on a date you realise whether or not there is this I fancy you
Okay.
or I don't.
Okay.
And I think that comes across, as I've already said, over appearance,
Flirting,
personality, a bit of flirting, a bit of tactile approach, whether or not they're welcoming a date number 2 or they're going to say, I'll come back to you, or you feel that there's going to be a little bit of resistance.
Okay.
You
Okay,
try
so
and
it's an
I
interest
think
from her part.
you want to leave the door open, but if the door looks like it's closing, you've got to decide whether you walk away or endeavour to push it back open again.
Okay, let's talk about intimacy. When do you think, you know, that should happen as far as timing wise? Is there a timing? Is there something that's
No.
too late? Is there something that's too soon?
No, not too late.
So
too
okay,
soon.
so you'd
To
be
meet the
willing
right
to
person.
wait. So you can wait a year for
A year? No, I don't think it'll wait a
Okay.
year.
So could you wait 6 months?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Well, that's personally from my
Well,
perspective.
that's what
I
I'm
wouldn't
saying.
wait.
Is there too late? 3 months.
Too late.
Too late. Okay,
Yeah.
2 months.
2 months is okay, but then of course you've got to look at your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got to think: are you going to see this person? Because in 2 months they may live, because they may not live around the corner. They may live 200 miles away.
Right.
Well, if they're living 200 miles away, Julia, you're not going to be seeing 3 or 4 times a week. You might
Right.
only be seeing them once a week, or obviously every other week. So I think
Right.
it's about
So if you're seeing them regularly, at least once a week, then 2 months is too long.
2 months. It's probably too long. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so like a month then.
A month, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, and then what about? Is there something that's too soon? Is there like if she goes to bed with you the first night, are you not taking her seriously?
Yeah, you're probably thinking, does she do this with all the guys she has coffee with?
Okay.
And that's not what it's not what you particularly find attractive.
Okay, then I've had some guys say basically if it doesn't happen after date number 2 or 3, they're not.
No,
they
I
lose
think I
interest.
just don't think you can be that specific on date 1, date 2, date 3.
Right.
I think it's about the way that the relationship evolves.
So somewhere between 1
I
month.
mean, also
and
it
2
depends
months.
where you are.
Right.
You know, are you out all the time, or are you back at one of the other partners' homes,
Mm-hmm.
or are you meeting in third-party locations? So the situations will dictate potentially whether there could be an intimacy or otherwise.
Okay, so somewhere between 1 month and 2 months seems to be the ideal, depending on how much you see each other.
Yeah, but I think it's more about how often you see each other. Then it's
Okay.
about 1 month, 2 months. How often do you see each other?
Okay.
If you get to 4 or 5 times and you're still not intimate, then you think you're probably going to question: is there any chemistry between us? Likely, be going forward.
Okay, and then tell me, like, so then fast forward. You've been married before.
Yep.
What is it that you think is that magic elusive element? Because a lot of the women watching this want to get married. They want to have a serious relationship. What is that magic elusive element that makes a man, do you think, ask a woman to marry him? What does it take, especially for a man that's been married before?
Well,
that
for a
kind
man
of
that's been
thing
married
is-
before, he's going to be looking at things in an entirely different
Exactly.
perspective.
Exactly.
You'll need to evaluate whether either of you want children.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I've got 3 children, so I wouldn't be looking to want to have more kids.
So,
you
is
need
marriage
to
only about children?
So you need to establish that
Right.
as potentially
Uh-huh.
as something going forward. Marriage is not only about having children. No, marriage is finding a life partner,
Yeah.
establishing a best friend, so establishing someone you can share important aspects of life with, share deep-rooted feelings about, discuss very personal matters. It might be your children's health, might be your financial experiences, might be where you're currently at. So.
Okay. So where would you, have you ever come close to thinking, okay, this is a woman I would propose to?
During the time I've been single,
Yeah.
yes, on one occasion.
What was it about her that made you think that way?
That we just ticked all the boxes I've just talked about: personality, passion, lifestyle, aspects of life going forward, wanting to have these similar values for the rest of your future.
So she just clicked.
Just clicked in many of those aspects, exactly, absolutely.
Okay, is there anything you can isolate for me as far as like personality characteristics of a woman that you really appreciate, or really that would really turn you off? Let's say appreciate to start with.
Appreciate warmth,
Okay.
interest.
Okay. Interest in you.
Interest in me, interest in the sort of
Environment.
in the environment.
Okay.
And deep-rooted interest. not something that you just feel they don't really care, but they'll ask the question.
What do you? Okay, how do you show that?
No, I'm suggesting you'll find out from the
Yeah.
conversation and the dialogue, the texts, the phone calls, how interested they are in your life,
Okay.
and that's important. From my perspective, it's important.
Okay. What else?
And a complete turn-off will be the opposite of that, when they show very little interest
Okay.
in your situation.
What else
they're
would
very-
be a complete turn off?
What else would be a complete
That women
turn-off?
do that kind of turn off men or finish relationships quickly.
It might be their lack of interest in your life, their lack of interest, or indeed looking at themselves. They might want to, do very little with their lives going forward. That would be an unattractive prospect for guys like me, wanting to sit at home and not do a great deal with their future. It's
Okay.
not an attractive attribute.
What else would be a complete turn off? Like, what do women do sometimes that really? I mean, we talked about something the other time. Some women, they kind of like seem to.
I think financially, there's got to be, particularly these days, there's got to be a bit of sharing, a bit of give and take in many areas. So whilst a woman would love to be taken out 3 or 4 times a week, having dinner, going to the theatre, going to the cinema, it is every nice. A guy does like to see a little bit coming back, whether it's just a coffee or an offer or a gesture towards contribution of something. That shows. I think it's a decent approach.
I think you said before, a woman that either she can do it by either buying you a gift or cooking dinner, or something
Whatever
like
it can be, just expressing their thanks and doing it in a nice way. It's not sitting there and expecting 24/7. A lot of guys do not like that expectation.
Okay, what about in your previous relationships where you've had, you've been with somebody and you've been like, okay, this could possibly work, and there's something that she did that completely just flipped you the other way? Can you think of anything like that? Do you know what I mean? You don't have to be specific about the person, but kind of certain things that women just do. Like, for example, nagging must drive a man crazy.
Nagging, yep, can do. Constant interest in themselves and their appearance. That could drive a lot of guys mad.
And that's a really good thing to say. So women who spend too much time basically...
Yeah, worrying about their hair, worrying about where they're going to get their hair blow dried, or worrying about the outfit.
Where she's asking you the whole time. Oh,
not necessarily, no, it's just an expression. It's not about asking
so
you.
you're walking around the city and you're trying to
Yeah.
enjoy the city, and she's like, oh, but I need to stop, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not in the moment.
A major discussion about an outfit. I don't think guys really find that attractive.
Okay.
In many situations when it can be completely exaggerated.
Is there anything else like that? Because that's a good one.
Talking about exes too long.
Okay, that's a really good one.
You like to establish sooner or later whether they're over a recent relationship or they're not. And many women do carry over the baggage into a new relationship and they keep dropping back into the past.
Okay, so
Just
women
be wary.
Get into the
Guys
past.
have to be very wary of that situation.
Okay, this is for women, yeah. So don't talk about your exes too much.
We don't. You don't want to hear about our exes, and we don't want to hear about your exes. What you need to do is to establish the foundations of what went on in the past, but it's over.
Okay.
And don't spend too long dwelling on your former marriage why it collapsed, and you actually don't. And the same thing for them.
Right.
Early days, you're not that interested, and I think that many women say it's a famous question: is why did your marriage end? We can go into it, give a little bit of a summary, but that is it.
Okay, so when somebody asks her, why did your marriage end, she should be very... not
Honest,
very,
I think she should be honest, be to the point. But too many women, unfortunately enough, are very clear on blaming the ex-husbands and going on about the ex-husbands, how nasty they are and how they did this and how they did that. Potential boyfriends actually don't really want to hear about that too much.
Okay.
They want to hear about her.
Okay, fair enough.
Because there's going to be a reason why he did what he did.
Okay, fair enough. That's
We don't want to hear about too much in the past. We want to hear about them. We don't hear about too much of the exes.
Okay.
It might be an ex-boyfriend or it might be an ex-husband, of course.
Okay, now what about women who talk about... Are there any taboo subjects that she shouldn't really broach kind of early on in the dating process?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, everything's okay. So
Everything's
explicit, sexually explicit or anything, that's not...
Everything's open for discussion and debate.
Okay. Is there, if I say the word to you, if I say femininity to you, what does that kind of come up, what comes to your mind? As far as how important is that in a woman?
Very important.
Okay.
So that'd be a woman who would, I think, would take care of themselves in their well-being, both in their appearance and their manner and their attitudes.
So, okay, so what does femininity mean? And like when you say it's very important, is that something you look for in a woman?
Something that I may look for, but not everyone would look for.
Okay. So is that something that's important to you?
Could be something. It could, yeah, yeah. I like a woman to be a woman, yeah.
Okay, what does that actually mean?
So it'd be someone that looks after themselves, takes care of themselves.
So it's a physical
themselves.
thing.
It's a physical thing, yeah.
Is it
absolutely.
also an emotional, mental thing, like the way she acts or the way she carries herself?
No, I think the way she acts is all part of her person, all part of the person.
And is there anything about like being classy or the way she acts with colleagues that when you introduce to colleagues or anything that's completely like that's finished?
That's finished.
Like, oh my God, this
she
she's
can't.
just
She,
embarrassed.
maybe she can't talk to them. That's not good.
Okay.
Because she may be too shy, too reserved.
Okay.
That's not great, in my perspective. Or she may need third-party influences to be able to talk, and I'm talking about drink maybe. She may need a lot of alcohol to be able to be persuaded to talk to other people. That's not necessarily a good sign.
Okay.
And another thing that wouldn't attract me is somebody that smokes. So you need to establish early doors. Do they have any particular vices? But I think you don't probably need to ask. You'll probably establish that quite early on. But a lot of guys don't particularly want to date somebody that smokes.
Okay.
These days.
Unless they smoke themselves.
Unless they smoke themselves, of course,
Right.
absolutely.
That's why smokers all meet each other outside the club.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add for women that would really help them be better?
I think they need to be honest. They need to be clear. They certainly need to give clarity on what they're looking for. And I think people need to be open-minded and give everybody an opportunity to be able to meet, chat before closing the door. Too many people, I think, will reject an opportunity to meet with somebody simply by a short conversation. I don't think you've got much to lose these days by
just
an
having
opportunity and having a coffee, absolutely, and then realising actually we actually could and we do actually get on.
Okay.
So I think you do have to be a little bit flexible.
Okay, this honesty thing,
Open-minded.
I just want to touch on the honesty thing a little bit. So in the beginning of a relationship, when you're kind of dating,
Yeah.
you know, you might be going on dates with different people. Is there a point, is there a point where you need to establish that you're in a relationship, not just going on dates? So that the woman, is that just assumed? Do you assume that you just fall into that, or does the woman need to, or you need to, or somebody needs to have that kind of discussion of we're exclusive?
Exclusivity would definitely be at the point of intimacy or when you're being physical together.
Okay, so you just assume it. It's not.
One would
that's
assume
discussed.
at that point you're an exclusive item, you and her.
Okay, so let's say before that point,
Right.
you've gone on a couple of dates. You've actually thought, okay, I like this woman, and then you're in in a coffee shop and you actually see her sitting there looking quite, friendly with somebody else that she's having a coffee with, having the same eye contact, the same kind of touching, whatever it is, but you haven't established exclusivity. How do you? Is that like a write-off? Like, oh, she's
You'd probably
gone?
say that you're not working. You're probably saying you're not succeeding on this one. You're going to come to the conclusion actually she's not right for me because she's obviously still in discussion with one or two others.
Well, but you haven't agreed exclusivity.
No, you haven't. It's an understanding.
So
It's
even
it's an unwritten
even
rule.
before intimacy,
Yeah.
before you've talked about exclusivity, before you've even been intimate, so you haven't kind of established anything there.
Yeah.
You would write her off. So let's say you've had 1 or 2 dates, maybe 3 dates. You haven't gone to intimacy yet,
Yeah.
and you see her. So there's no discussion.
Well, I think if she's interviewing somebody else, you're probably going to draw your own conclusions. That she's obviously doesn't see you as the next man in her life.
Okay, fair enough. So that's okay. That's a good important thing. Even if you might be doing the same thing.
Even if you're doing the same thing, then you're not regarding her as likely to be the next important person in your life as well.
So if
you find the right person, you don't need to carry on interviewing another 3 or 4 at the same time.
how soon do you decide that?
Well, I think it's only the two individuals themselves can determine that, how the conversation, how often you're going to meet.
So if you meet a woman, and you've maybe going out on dates with not particularly exclusive with 3 other women or a couple other women, and you meet a woman and you're just like, wow, I like her, then that's it. You're gonna drop.
Yeah, you can drop the others, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you've got the opportunity, you've got every night free that you can afford to take another 6 out. The reality is that if you meet someone that's super exciting, super attractive, and does tick a lot of your boxes, then I would suggest you focus on that person and try and make that a go. And if it doesn't work, you go back out on the interview scene.
Okay, so even before you're intimate, before there's any exclusivity,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you kind of focus in. You choose one.
Yeah, and make them realise you're focusing in on them, and that's not difficult.
How would you make them realize that?
Well, because the level of conversation, the level of text, the level of how often you might want to meet with them, they can see that you're interested in them.
Okay, how often is too often to text somebody, and how often is too little?
Well, I think you've got to be a bit. That's not that easy a question, is it? Because the woman that works in a pressurised environment, you're not going to be texting every hour. The woman that might be at home with 2 young children, she's going to be more able to text you, telling you what's going on. So it depends on the situation.
Okay, so now
and it also depends on the guy, because if the guy, it depends what his work commitments are.
Yeah. Well, let's say a woman's going out with a powerful man, or like someone who's normally successful.
Yep.
Has other commitments.
Yep.
And she doesn't hear from him very often. Is that a sign that he's
very
probably
often?
dating?
It depends what you call very often.
Maybe she's the one that usually starts the text conversation. Maybe once a day, she gets a response, and then maybe 2 days later, if she doesn't start a conversation, there's no. It's her proactively. So he's probably dating other women.
Yeah.
He's probably not that serious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if he was really serious, he would be initiating.
He would be initiating the written conversation via the text. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if she then lets things drop and no conversation comes back,
he then realizes that actually she's not for him.
He probably realized that.
He probably realizes that. He doesn't have to be too bright to realize that.
No, I mean, if he's not initiating conversation, that's a sign that he's probably either carrying on with other people or.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to show somebody you're actually interested, and if you don't, how could you expect somebody to know that you're interested? You have to work at it.
So could she do anything to change that then?
Well, she could be in dialogue in return.
No, I mean, if he's not initiating conversations, should she continue to initiate conversations and continue
to
go out on dates?
Up to a point. But, again, she's going to know very, very early on whether this guy is interested or not.
How will she know?
Because of the level of response back that she might get from her written text.
No, let's say he responds immediately, but he doesn't initiate.
Well, maybe he's too busy. Maybe he's got a lot of things, going on in his life. Maybe he's got his children issues, maybe he's got financial issues, maybe he's got work commitments, maybe he's travelling, maybe he's got sporting issues. We all lead busy lives, and it's trying to match it all up together.
So how can she then gauge his interest? So that if she dropped initiating...
Because you've got to establish, when am I going to see you again, and am I going to see you again, and have we got something in the diary? And if we haven't got anything in the diary, you've got to establish, you've got to reckon very early on, this is not going anywhere.
Okay.
Because if the 2 people are looking to get together, you put a date in the diary and you actually look forward to the next opportunity. And if there's nothing in the diary, you're thinking it's just drifting. So you need to establish quite early on whether or not there's interest.
So if he's interested, he will forward that.
He will absolutely, yeah. Like as he would in his business environment, he would put something in the diary, schedule it, and look forward.
And if he doesn't, he's not that interested. If he doesn't,
I suggest he's probably not that interested. Yeah.
Okay, so she shouldn't even bother pushing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's great. Anything else you want to add?
No,
you're good. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. That was great.